Brian. Good afternoon and welcome everybody to 2023 to GFNY 2023. We have a really fun program for today to cover all the news and excitement of everything that is GFNY in 2023. 34 races, Asia, Europe, North America, South America. Whether you're a first timer or whether you're going for your three timer or you're climbing the ladder to 10, 20 or more GFNY finishes, we'll discuss all that's available to you and the always growing GFNY calendar. We've introduced training plans this year to complement our coaching platform. We'll talk about that a little bit about that in panel 2. In panel 3, we'll discuss what to expect on race day and how to have your, how to arrive at the start line calm, prepared, and ready to enjoy the experience and cross the finish line feeling strong. And then finally, last but not least, in panel 4, we'll show you how to choose the races to maximize your experiences and achieve your goals, and to talk about how to travel with and without your bike to make sure that you have the best experience. So we're going to start with calendar. Let's get going. I'm really glad to have my good friend Cedric Haas and Sean Gadd with us to be able to talk about some of what's on the 2023 calendar. These guys organize so many races between them in GFNY France and GFNY. I used to say GFNY Mexico, but now it's not just Mexico, is it, Sean?
No, Colombia is on the list as well.
Okay. And so we're going to start to talk about how we're seeing the calendar grow. And, a great example of how Sean has grown from, so many races in Mexico now. Cozumel will be in its 10th edition this year.
Yep.
And so from that building block of Cozumel, which is the biggest party on two wheels, going from there, I say it every year and he gives me that same smile. Going from Cozumel and growing that into Colombia, back in, GFNY back in Colombia, what could be better? So let's start with you, Sean, and talk about some of the features that make your races unique.
Well, I think number one, Mexico. I guess we'll start there. Cozumel, it's going to be the 10th year, our 10-year anniversary, so we're super excited. We are really trying to just make a lot of fun changes for this year, things that will really spice up the race in many ways, both on the course and off the course. The idea really for me, it's people come, they love the party. We will definitely put together an amazing party, but we're trying to spice up what we're going to do on the race course as well. Because you're coming for the race course, you're coming to enjoy what we add onto that course to make your experience that much better. Last year we did coconuts. We have pizza every year. This year we want to do kind of like different types of sound effects, different types of themes in different sections of the route that would be different. For example, if you're going into the King of the Wind section, we want to basically build up some kind of atmosphere there that you feel like you're being blown away by the wind, no matter how windy it really is. I just came back from Universal Studios and Disney World, so I'm all about building attractions right now. So for me, it's very much we want to make it an enjoyable, exhilarating attraction for everyone. Obviously, the race itself, that's going to be exhilarating, and that's up to you to make it as powerful as you want. But we want to add a lot of different elements there that will make you feel that you're living and breathing the race as you're racing yourself. So those are things that we're working on. The party this year, we're gonna really blow the roof this time. We always make amazing parties, but this year we are going to completely do things differently. We usually do bands and some DJs and things like that, but we're no hold bars. We're doing Cirque du Soleil style shows. We're gonna have some top DJ performers. The show is not only going to be at the finish area. We're going to have in the nighttime. We're going to rent out some beach clubs, and we're going to do some nice like DJ fest in the beach clubs. Probably going to have the parties last for at least a couple of days as well. So stay tuned for those announcements exactly as far as like what kind of parties will be going on during race week. So you're coming for the race for sure, but you will be staying for the party 100% as well. And that's Cozumel. Cozumel, where it's going to be easily 3,000-4,000 riders. We already have almost 2,000 riders registered. people know that we are going to do something amazing. We never upset or disappoint there, and we're not going to do that now, obviously. So that's Cozumel. Cozumel is the end of the season in November. But first up actually is Monterrey, which is in about a month from now. So Monterrey for us, it's probably one of my favorite cities to host a race in, just because it just reminds me very much of Colorado. It's beautiful mountain ridges everywhere, a lot of incredible athletes, just a lot of beautiful scenery to ride through, and that's something that every year when we host over there, we really, me myself personally, enjoy riding there before the race, climbing up Chipinque, going to Huasteca, all the famous places that people love to ride over there. So last year we changed the route a little bit. We decided to not go through one of the small towns there called Juarez, because they just built a new highway, and we did it for the first time last year, and it was amazing. And we're definitely going to continue that route where it's going to go through the highway. Actually, as you go through that highway, you have a beautiful view of the Sierra Madre mountain range, and really the roads. It's a brand new highway, so the roads are super smooth. It does make the race a little bit faster, which is cool. Um, but another addition that we decided as well is that usually we have the podium ceremony at the bottom of the finish area in Macro Plaza. This year, what we decided to do is that we're going to still continue with the podium ceremony at the main finish area, but since the finish is at the top of the mountain, we're going to do like a mini quick podium ceremony for the winners that made it to the top. So instead of them going to the top and then us congratulating them and then having to go all the way back down the mountain to celebrate with everyone, you just crossed the finish line. Let's do something to congratulate you up there. So that's one of the things that we're going to do. And actually, this year's theme from Monterrey, it's the bear theme. So just like in New York, where you have Bear Mountain, Chipinque is actually very, very well known for their bears, their black bears. So we've done the whole theme around bears this year. There's a lot of actually viral videos if you go just online anywhere and type Chipinque Mountains. People that are hiking over there and they have their encounters with bears. Nothing has ever happened bad or anything like that, but it's kind of why we chose that theme, because there's a lot of beautiful life over there, natural life there, that I really want to celebrate that, because first of all, it's a national park, and it's just a beautiful mountain. We love it there. I have friends that not only ride there, but they cross train over there, and there's a lot of beautiful trails to go hiking and running as well. So it's a place that if you're going to be going to Monterrey, hopefully you will. Yeah, ride and do your training, but do some hikes over there, have some fun. Don't worry about the bears, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. And then from there we have Guadalajara, which Guadalajara for me was the first race was last year. It was a race that exceeded every single expectation we had. It was the fastest ever recorded race in GFNY Mexico history. The average speed of podium winners was about 48 kilometers per hour. The guys were like F-35s flying through the race course. It was insane. And that has a lot to do. Yes, it is a flat course, but a lot of nice rolling hills. So a lot of people, a lot of racers got some great momentum and kept it up through the whole race course. The city did an impeccable job of sealing the streets. A mosquito couldn't get onto the race course. And then we closed it off with, even though I commend that Cozumel always has an amazing after party, Guadalajara took it to another level. We brought all the famous local bands. We had a lot of brewing companies that came and just hosted with amazing beer, artisanal beer that I enjoyed very much. And again, all the bands, all the DJs. We had amazing prizes. We gave away 50,000 pesos, which is like around $2,500, to the winner of the team category, which we're going to do again this year as well. That brought a lot of teams to come and compete. So you definitely saw that all the teams there dressed up, ready to win. It was great. We gave the teams a nice area inside the finish area where they can put their own tents, and the teams could have whatever they needed to get ready before and after the race. And this year we're not going to slow that down. Zapopan is going to be huge as well. Definitely more people are registering due to the success of last year. Um, and we're really excited. Obviously we had we had tequila at the finish line and things like that, which we're going to continue as well. We had a great tequila sponsor who gave a mini bottle of tequila inside all the goodie bags. So as soon as you cross the finish line and you want to numb the pain a little bit, you have a nice shot there to help you on your way of numbing the pain. And yeah, I mean for us Mexico, it's I live here obviously. It's a treat to organize the races. We love putting them together. We're riders at the end of the day. We live and breathe cycling, and for me it's the passion that I have and that my team has here. It translates into everything that we do. We love to see the smiles on everyone's faces. We love to see the hunger that people have to win or to progress or to challenge themselves. And at the end of the day, that's what makes, I think that's what defines a lot of us. We like to be challenged, and GFNY is an amazing challenge. So Mexico, it's doing amazing. We're very happy. We have some surprises that I can't mention right now, but stay tuned because there's going to be some cool additions to the Mexico family, hopefully coming soon. And yeah, then we have Colombia as well. I don't know if you want to talk about Colombia right after. Let's jump into
Let's
France a little bit, and
let
then we can
let
talk about Colombia.
yeah, let's segue into France because you had mentioned the climb at the end of Monterey. So, Cedric, that's a perfect segue to talk about all the climbing that there is to do. I You hit all of the legendary corners of France now, right between the Alps, the Pyrenees, the Côte d'Azur, um, and Alsace. So, I mean, I tell us how this calendar evolved and what you have going and what should riders expect from some of the legendary climbs that they'll get to experience.
Thank you for this, but yeah, this year with my six ways will be the same like in 22. On I'm very proud because I have the most beautiful climb around the French place, On yes, already starting with Cannes with a lot of new project. On one of good growing is we have the expo in the Palais des Festivals. Donc you can pick up your babes in very close in the red carpet, and that is very good experience. I love this city for that, with the sea, with the little climb, with the beautiful landscape on view on the Côte d'Azur, on the Mediterranean is very exciting. And it's very soon, less to 2 months, but yeah, it's a very good place for start the season. You have a good climb, but it's very accessible this way because it's not so higher, but the view and the experience will be just amazing. After we go in end of May in Villard-de-Lans in Vercors, you have the beautiful view on this year. I think the climb is not so, what can I say, not so people don't know much this place, but Tour de France was already there in Villard-de-Lans for a finish. That is very knowing finish, but the view on the experience, the woods with the Vercors is just amazing, and that is very also a good place for the second wave of the season. And after we start with one of beautiful area for cycling this year, because in Lourdes, Tourmalet, you have the Tour de France this year, you have the Women Tour de France this year as well, you have Vuelta, Spain as well, this place. I'm very proud to have a GFNY starting Lourdes to go to Tourmalet on l'automne to Lourdes, and it's just amazing with Col d'Aspin on Tourmalet, and I think Sean, Chris, you have a good experience
Or
for that last year.
Tour Tourmalet was Tourmalet was enough. I think that's a good opportunity to put in that you offer medium length courses for all of the races, so that if somebody doesn't feel like they're up to the challenge of the long course, that they still get to experience, the for the race in Lourdes Tourmalet, to be able to do the medium was still, 7,000 or 2,000 meters of climbing, 7,000 feet of climbing, and a very long climb up to the summit of Tourmalet, and a very
But
exciting descent with the sheep. Um, but the
yeah,
meet,
it's very natural place on wild. Yeah, I think the experience for the Tourmalet is little bit different than the Alp because it's not so knowing on touristic area, but yeah, it's just a fantastic. Yeah, climb, I think. Yeah, on the medium is little bit different than the other ways because it's more long. The medium is 100 kilometer with the Tourmalet, and for everybody is also a good ways also, even if it's a medium. And that for starting the season 11 June, I think is just yeah beautiful. And after the finish, top of the Tourmalet on return to Lourdes, in amazing place, very knowing around the world with the church and all the religious, but it's also a very good place for sport because Tour de France was there last year, if you remember. On that is very good place area in French with Pyrenees. On I saw already the registration. We have more cyclists than last year. On that will know people can enjoy the Pyrenees. On yeah, just after we have Lavojani. Donc Lavojani for the is 3 years also this year on with Alpe d'Huez. Donc everybody know this name. Donc it's also a good place for cycling. On like Christopher know very well the last climb to Vojani, easy part for the race. on and yes, I think this one also because to have the Tourmalet Alpe d'Huez in just 2 weeks is amazing to have that because it's a fabulous place of cycling, and I think around the world people can dream about this place, you know. And after is my place in Alsace with Grand Ballon. And this place will be very nice because it's the last stage in Tour de France in 23. Donc the finish of the Tour de France will be in Alsace. Very hard race as well. Not very high climb, but a long climb. Even almost no flat during the race. And this year with Tour de France, just the day before the Champs-Élysées, you have the same routes like us in GFNY Grand Ballon. That's amazing. You have the Petit Ballon, you have as well the Platzer Basel, Retour Marstein. Now we will cross Marstein, the finish line to the Tour de France this year, with a very exciting place on return to Tannes. And Tannes is as well a very good place in Alsace, a little beautiful city. That will be an amazing race as well. Donc if you see all this place, it's just beautiful. Yeah, I'm very proud to organize there. And finish with the first Alpe Vosgeny, Croix de Fer, Glandon. And I think of one the most difficult race in the French calendar in 120k with 4,000 meter climbing. That is very challenging. For finish the season, I love to with Croix de Fer, Glandon, and this return with Vosgeny, this little village area in ski station is very good. And that is the plan. It's the same like last year, but we will grow. We will grow with more participation. We have also a few races very when I can smell the exciting from for the cyclists, and yeah, that will be amazing. And we will prepare more expo show. We will prepare a big surprise on your goodie bag. And yes, between we will start on the red carpet in Cannes, and after finish on the beautiful climb around France. What can you expect more? It's just amazing for me, and for all the cyclists, of
fan,
course.
fantastic. So,
Cool.
bouncing back to the other side of the Atlantic, Sean, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you have cooking in Colombia? We've already
I
had
wanted
one
to
race in
offer
Colombia.
Cedric, maybe you can
Yeah,
organize Mexico for a year and I'll organize France.
We can change, yeah.
We can
the
switch. It's
GFNY
okay.
exchange program.
No problem.
You can take a whale photo from your band.
No problem. I can go directly over there, and I'm sure my wife will have no problem with that.
But for me too in Mexico, because here in Alsace it's very cold and snowing, and yeah, we can
Uh,
change a little bit.
I don't mind it. For me, I need snow.
Oh my God, maybe I need sun. I will change.
But
Amazing.
yeah, Colombia now it's getting really wild. We made a big announcement the other day that we're changing the route of the Bogota course. And it was a decision that was based after just all the feedback that we had received from everyone that's done the race there. That it's always the same route. There, everyone is climbing La Cuchilla, and everyone basically does it every weekend on their own, and they wanted something different and new. So we basically set a path to discover where nearby Bogota we can offer something cool, something amazing. And along the way, we became very good friends with a good friend of ours. His name is Diego. His nickname is Japo. He is actually Egan Bernal's manager. Um, and they live in Zipaquira, which is about an hour and a half outside of Bogota, more or less the same distance as the past host town, Guatavita, was from Bogota. So after numerous discussions going back and forward with the government, they basically opened their doors to us and said, bring the race here. Let's celebrate Egan Bernal, his comeback into cycling, which he just started now in San Luis in Argentina. And we have just a ton of roads over here that Egan trains on for the tour that we can easily offer to you and build an amazing race experience like the Colombians know how to do, obviously. So we made the deal happen. We closed it, and we're not looking backwards because we think it's something to really look forward to. Zipaquira, for those that don't know, Zipaquira is kind of like, I guess you could say, the Hamptons of Bogota. It's like a resort destination. There's no beach or anything there, but it is a resort destination that people go to for the weekend. And there's a lot of mountain ranges there. There's beautiful spas, hotels, an amazing village, a Spanish colonial style village, and it really has a beautiful charm to it. And they're opening their doors to us widely, and they want to make sure that we put together a successful and amazing event for everyone inside and outside Colombia to enjoy, and at the same time to celebrate the riders that train there, such as Egan. So one of the things that we're doing is we are going to probably work with Egan a little bit to help invite more people to come to the race because it's his hometown. He wants many people to participate. But also for us, what's very important is the route, obviously. So the route is going to be something. For those that went to the race in Jerusalem, we finished the race through a tunnel. And then as you went through the tunnel, or as you left the tunnel, you could see the finish arc. In Zipaquira, or GFNY Bogota, we're going to start the race inside a salt mine. So you will be starting inside of a mine, which is really cool. And it's going to be a controlled start because we can't race in the mine, but only for like a few kilometers. And then as soon as we leave the mine, then it's full gas and the race is open. So the course itself, if you look at the course profile, it's flat with rolling hills in the beginning. Okay, there's like one climb of, let's say, not even 1 or 2 kilometers in the beginning, but the main climb of the day, and this is the mountain that Egan trains on all the time, and most people in Colombia know, it's called Pacho, El Pacho, and it's 22 kilometers long, 6.5% average gradient, and you're climbing about 1,400 meters in that distance. It's wild. There's like between 14 to 15% high gradients in some points. Nothing higher than that. It does look very difficult on the profile on paper, but everyone assures me that it's not as difficult as it looks on paper. The cool thing is, this is Colombia, so it is high elevation. You're capping off at 3,200 meters, and what we've decided to do is something similar, like we're doing in Monterrey, where the finish line is going to be on the top of the mountain. So everyone will cross to the top. We'll probably do like Monterrey, like a mini podium ceremony up there. But then we're going to go down the mountain, and we're going to celebrate in the main finish area, which is right next to the salt mines, which will be really, really cool. So I'm really, really excited about it. It's going to be something completely different that we've done in Bogota. And for those who are saying, why are you doing this, and why did you make the change? We needed to mix it up, and we opened our ears and we listened to everyone that was basically telling us, do something different. The same route, the same race, it's enough is enough. So we're listening to everyone. And with that, we're not only listening, but we're going to do something super amazing, which we hope will stay for many years in Zipaquirá. The government is very nice. And celebrate what Colombian culture and cycling really is. And really, I've learned a lot by organizing events in Colombia. Definitely the passion that they have for cycling and coffee, I could say. I haven't seen it anywhere else, really. I mean, you can go to let's say, France, where Cedric is, and Italy, and the European have the amor, the love for cycling. And this side of the world, I would have to say that Colombia is the next place that has that. They cherish cycling. They look at all of the pro riders that are racing on World Tour. They're all icons. They're all celebrity figures in Colombia, and that's because their heart is wrapped around cycling more than any other sport over there, 100%. So we want to make things interesting for them. And if they tell us change the course, it's not interesting anymore, we said, okay, we're going to change the course. So that's GFNY Bogota. The race is going to be the 30th of April, so it's in a few months from now. And the next stop after that, it's going to be the 27th of August, which is going to be also in Colombia, in Tunja, Boyacá. So Tunja is the capital of Boyacá. Boyacá is considered the capital of cycling in Colombia. Miguel Superman Lopez, all the big top riders, when they train for the tour, they go there. That's where they train. They'll do their weekends there, their camps there. They basically live there before they go to Europe and start the racing calendar. So Boyacá, it's a place where tons of pro riders go to from all over the world to train at elevation, obviously. We just had a group ride last week that we invited all the pros that lived in the area, and we had like 50, 60 pros show up. World Tour pros or Pro Conti riders show up and just ride with all the participants that had registered for GFNY Colombia. And the race over there, it's also obviously a high elevation course. It's a course that you're going to go past a lot of, let's say, high mountain ranges and things like that. But we designed the course also so that it's not going to knock you out, kind of like La Cuchilla does. It's a rolling course in the beginning. It's going to be more or less around like 130 kilometers. There's going to be about 4 or 5 named climbs that we have. The biggest climb that we have there, it's called Piedras Gordas, which is about 12 kilometers, and that's averaging around 5%. Again, it's a climb that it's rolling, So it's not a straight climb like, let's say, going up Mont Ventoux, where you're climbing, at between 7 to 10% the whole entire time, and there's no window for your legs to relax. The good thing here is that with the Bogota course and with the Tunja course, there's rollers, we call them, where your legs can relax a little bit, which is very good. Uh, in Tunja, they actually hosted the World Championship in the 1980s, the UCI Road Cycling World Championship. So they're not a stranger as well to big international cycling races. And that's something that, this host town, they're going to show everyone who they are in cycling and why Boyacá is considered the capital of cycling in Colombia. So, that's going to be the 27th of August. We're super excited for that race. It's also next to a resort town, just like Zipaquirá is a resort town. Tunja and the whole state of Boyacá, they have a lot of little resort villages in that area. If you go onto our website, you can see a few of them and choose which hotel you would like to stay at, that also offer the spa experience and the nice long weekend vacation experience as well. So that's something that we really look forward to. And we have 2 races right now in Colombia. So it's just the beginning. Last year we started with one. Immediately when we started, we said, let's see where else we can host some nice races. Colombia is just filled with amazing routes. So believe me, it won't be the last race that we're going to have there. And we're definitely going to search for more destinations. Everyone's asking us, when are we going to go to Medellin, or when are we going to go to Cartagena, or any of those places? And that's something that it's in our scope. Our binoculars are on there.
You just got Medellin and Cali as requests. So so there you have it. I think we'll start to wrap it up here. Thank you both. Under your leadership, these GFNYs are just absolutely exploding in both Latin America and in Europe. And any parting thoughts that you want to give us about why you should, pack a bag and get there?
From my side, what, to Colombia or to just any GFNY race in general?
Any GFNY around the world.
I look at it like it's a personality thing. Are you passive? Are you someone that likes to be challenged? Are you someone that can't stand still and that needs to really prove to themselves what they're capable of? And I think a lot of individuals are like that. And GFNY offers you that capacity to really just prove to yourself what you're really capable of. A lot. There's so many people that I see that come and they're like, I don't know. I hope I can make it past the finish line, or maybe I should be doing just the medium distance and not the long distance. And then I see them after the race, and some are in tears, and others are just in shock at what they were capable of doing. So I think for those that really want to experience just amazing race courses that we as organizers know how to put together is one thing, but to experience what you're capable of, experience what your body can do, and that maybe you don't know that your body can do, and just go out there and prove it to yourself, because that's what this is all about at the end of the day. For me, I did Mont Ventoux, I remember, and I said to myself, there's no way I can do Mont Ventoux. And I crossed the finish line, and then I went down the other side, and we went back to the finish area, and I was like almost myself in tears, like, how the hell did I get this to happen? How did I do it? And to this day, I just have amazing memories of what I achieved. And I think people that achieve a GFNY race will just have amazing memories after.
I was with you that day, Sean. I was about 90 minutes behind you, though. Cedric, any last thoughts?
Yes, but like Sean, just if you wanna do a GFNY, I did so many Grand Fondo in my life before I start the job for organization. Come for the beautiful family. Come for challenging yourself. You have a very, very good place. Everybody with the same jersey. On like me, on like Sean, on every organizer. have a lot of passion for that. We work with passion, we work with family, we work with our heart, you know. On this event is different, and I believe I will always, yeah, keep the best for each rider. On you can be a stronger rider, you can be just occasional rider, just with a little train, you can challenge yourself, and you can do it for everybody. That's the best goal for GFNY.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we have a poll in the lower right-hand corner. The poll basically, where will you race in 2023 with a list of locations? Select as many. Tell us where you're going. Tell us what you're doing. It's come to our attention over the past few years that life is short. Get out and do it if that's what you want to do. Thank you
Definitely.
both, gentlemen. We're going to take a quick video break and then we'll be back to talk about coaching and training plans. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye.
back, and I'd like to welcome in Ben Bram, GFNY coach, multisport coach, as well as Paulina Allen. Paulina is an elite athlete, podium finisher, and also a coach in her own right. And so today we're going to talk about just GFNY coaching, GFNY training plans. GFNY has just begun a relationship with Training Peaks, and I know that many athletes are using Training Peaks right now to track their progress, and maybe some, maybe don't know what it is, or maybe are a little afraid of it. I'm just going to share my screen. You can see that when you have a GFNY conference event, it takes a little bit of a toll in the red zone on the day before the conference. So um, you can see how I'm doing. So missed a couple of workouts yesterday. So just given your guys' thoughts, how does Training Peaks help you prepare as an athlete? I think people are probably most interested in how Training Peaks is something that you can use as a way of measuring yourself. So I'll just open that up to both of you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Ben, why don't we start with you?
Yep.
Okay, Chris. Thank you. It's very useful, the Training Peaks. The most important for me is to check always the TSB. When you take the premium account, you can check always your TSB, that's training stress balance. And that's a great predictor for the coach and also for the athlete for okay, what's the condition? And that's a very important shiver that you can compare it. And it's also important, the TSB, when you work for a competition. When you, for example, will participate at the GFNY championship in New York, you can follow your TSB, and your TSB had a certain amount on the day for the competition. That's very important and a great advantage of using Training Peaks.
Excellent. And then Paulina, as an athlete, how are you looking at Training Peaks? How are you using that to help you inform where you're at in your preparation?
I think as an athlete, when you're using the Training Peaks, it gives you a lot of good feedback if you're using a coach. You can follow, like, there's tons of data that's on there. You can train with the power, you can train with heart rate, and as you're building up towards your Grand Fondo event, the goal of that is to get stronger, but to be keeping, like, you want the heart rate to get lower as you're working through. So as you keep repeating and doing the same sets, that's what I find it's a great tool to help you to follow your progress as you move through the weeks over the training.
Great. And I think joining us now, Vito Valentini, also GFNY coach. We're talking about coaching, and we're talking about training plans, and we're talking about GFNY's relationship now with Training Peaks. But as a coach, what are the things that you do to help prepare somebody for their first race, for their next race, for their whatever they have on their calendar goals wise?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, what we look for is positive adaptation. And so we have somebody, decide, we take a look and see what their starting point is. And then from there, take a look and see what their ability to train is, because it depends on their lifestyle and things like that, how many days a week they can train, at what efforts. So we develop first a starting point, and then from there, give them a series of exercises and training to do that'll help them adapt over time to meet what would be their goal. And so, goals are different for everybody. I mean, some people are, racers, and other people are what I'll call casual cyclists who, whose goal is just to finish in a really great time. It's important to collect information and data so that we can help people with focus and specificity when they train, and not to just kind of just go out and ride your bike without any kind of goal in mind or with any kind of structure. And so that's really the benefit of a system of any kind, including Training Peaks, that allows you to share with your athlete, find out what their goals are first, and then continue to have a dialogue with them over time so that you can help them, manage getting to the point where they want to get to all the time.
So let's emphasize two things, because I think the screens that I just showed how overwhelming an amount of data a feedback system like Training Peaks can provide you, right? I mean, it can tell you just about anything that you want to know about where you are. But in looking at that, it need not be overwhelming. And I think one of the things that GFNY has really gotten right with this relationship is first starting with training plans, right? And Vito, I think you just touched on this, that going out and training without some kind of a plan, even if you're not working with a coach, is probably not the best approach, right? It's not necessarily going to help you get to any kind of a goal. Any thoughts from any of the three of you on that? Just please feel free to just chime in.
There's an old saying that says, "Fail to plan, and you'll plan to fail," and that's really the substance of what we do. So your plan could very well be very simple, right? I'm going to train 2 days a week because that's all I have, because I have 7 kids and a home and 2 jobs and whatever. And so, but in that 2 days a week, I'm going to make the maximum amount of effort that I can to continue to evolve over time. For other people who have more time and are more dedicated and maybe want to do a 4.5 hour Gran Fondo New York, then obviously they need much more specific training in the period of time that they have to train. But to try and do that on your own is typically challenging, because without having some sort of structure in place and without having some, I'll call it either exterior conscience or someone to guide you, is a little bit challenging. So even, the two people that I'm on the course with here right now are professional racers. I mean, they have tremendous amount of accomplishments. They know so much about cycling and all of the things that might get in the way and the pitfalls. And yet I'm sure they work with a coach. I don't think they do this on their own. And so if it can work with people at their caliber, imagine what the help that it could give to people who are kind of just starting out, or maybe are what I call recreational cyclists that want to create a better benefit for themselves as they race and ride.
Yep. And I'll just add on to what Vito is saying is you can have a training plan, but life happens and things get in the way. And I've done this too, is like, you may have certain workouts, but it's like, I've had to miss the beginning of the week, so I'll just pile it all on to the end of the week. So it doesn't matter if you're a professional or an age grouper, or you've got goal ideas of where you're going to be at your Gran Fondo. Just having that guidance and the knowledge, and I think the support from somebody else where you can talk about your fears and to just help, because I think often it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. It's having that confidence, knowing that if I miss this particular workout, it's okay. All right. And, not piling all onto the end of the weekend.
Ben, any thoughts? Just going off of what Paulina and Vito just said about
the experience I've got with athletes who will train without a plan is that they train every week the same distance, the same intensity, and in first place, in second place, they train on too high intensity. So they are feeling well in the whole preparation, but on the day of the competition, they are empty, and yeah, the performance is not what they have supposed to, and then it's not so easy to motivate an athlete. But with a plan, like Paulini and Vito says, it must be dynamic, but it's also a guidance for the athlete to achieve his or her goals to the competition.
And I think what you're touching on too is a little bit of preventing overtraining. overtraining to the point of injury. I know probably everybody that's listening to this that considers themselves an athlete has been through some sort of overtraining injury before, which almost it almost compounds when you have to slow yourself down coming back so that you don't make the same mistake again, or so that you don't make the injury worse. So how do you use the tools? How do you use the conversations with your athletes? How do you use the conversation with yourself to spot when that type of thing is happening?
Okay, I'll answer. I'll start on that. I think it's having a great relationship with your coach, if it's Ben or Vito, and really trusting in the process. I know, like for myself, getting coached by somebody, you tend to often always go too fast because I just want to win every workout. And I know a lot of other writers feel the same way. So, when those easy rides have to be easy, I think that's really hard for like me, who gets coached, to understand like why this just seems too easy. Yeah, and so you tend to keep pushing and pushing. So getting that feedback and being called out on it that's where it's really helpful having a coach, right?
I think also, sometimes what I'll call us mere mortals get caught up in what we see the pro riders doing. And now that everybody has learned those three dastardly initials FTP, everyone's chasing that number, right? And so I got to raise it 10, I got to raise it 20, and one of the things that at least I caution the kind of people, athletes that I work with is, you know, it's a number that moves over time. If you're a pro or, sort of even at your two guys level, um, that moves sort of consistently increasing over time to the extent it can, because that's what you dedicate yourself to. But people who, let's say, are recreational riders who now take on a Gran Fondo event or any kind of race, they have to understand that it's not going to be a straight line going this way, you know, from now until 13 weeks from now. It's going to, there's going to be movements in that effort, and it's going to depend on how you're feeling, what you're eating, the way you react to training. Once you start giving people a little bit higher levels of effort, you have to also remain cognizant of how their body's reacting to that. So I think what you said is perfect. The dialogue is important. It doesn't have to be 3 times a day, but certainly it has to be a kind of consistent dialogue. And also, I think as a coach, you have to kind of keep in mind that the people that you're working with tend to feel like they're not doing enough. Like, why can't I do more? Why can't I do a 6 hour training ride? Why? Because sitting on the trainer for 6 hours is not really a good idea. It's snowing outside. You need to do something, like that kind of thing. So those, I call them human interactions between coach and athlete, coach and student, teacher and student, whatever, I think is important. It's part being a little bit of a psychologist to make sure that they get the best out of themselves, but also to make sure that nobody injures themselves during that process because they're so enthusiastic about doing so much.
Ben, any thoughts there?
Yeah, minimum once a week, I give feedback to my athletes in Training Peaks, and on different levels. The first level is have they done the training that I planned in Training Peaks? Yes or no? No. What was the problem? Yes. Did they the training? Did they do the training that was planned? Yes or no? And then in the second level, I'm gonna compare the values of TSB, the TSS, and so I can adapt or change eventually the annual training plan in order to what they did last week.
So when we talk about the fact that GFNY now offers both coaching and training plans, where would a training plan come in for somebody that maybe doesn't have the time to devote to being a coached athlete? What what kinds of training plans would you recommend? What, I know we've the coaching staff at GFNY has written a number of training plans for getting started. So in working with those training plans, how do you recommend that folks interact with Training Peaks in those ways? Should they be
Like
concerned with the numbers? Should they be concerned with completion? Should they be concerned with consistency? What are the things that the sort of the, let's just call them the self-coached athlete that's using a GFNY training plan would use? How would you recommend they approach that?
like Vito already said, it has got to be realistic. You don't have to take a training plan of 4 sessions a week when you can only train 2 sessions. That's the most important, and that's the greatest danger of athletes. They're gonna compare them with pro riders, and they train too much, or they will train too much, and then there is overtraining, injuries, and other things, and that's not very good.
In working with your athletes, do you work in other things like, recommendations on when to stretch and do strength and conditioning and those types of activities to make sure that they're getting sort of a balance outside of what they do on the bike or what they do on the run, since GFNY, marathons as well?
I mean, I typically, the group of athletes that I'm working with typically already have a little bit of a system of doing other exercises, whether they're going to the gym twice a week and doing some weight training, or whether they do yoga twice a week. So I always encourage them to participate in the things that they've always liked to participate in, and also to maintain some balance. And then the rest of really the more specifics that I work with them are, basically related to their cycling. There's there's I think everybody kind of knows this acronym of training. It's using the word SMART, and when it talks about a plan, it has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time constrained. And so when you create, a plan for somebody, it has to kind of, or some goals together, it has to kind of fit into that system. So.
And just following up on both what Ben and Vito is saying, like in choosing a plan, if you're going to go with picking your own plan, I think it's more about having frequency and consistency in your training versus being a weekend warrior and thinking that you can get all the training in there, which can often lead more to injuries. So you're better to just have like little bike sessions throughout the week. And being absolutely, I think you have to be pretty brutally honest what you can do, like especially if you have a family and you're working, trying to pick a workout plan for 20 hours a week. That is not realistic for most of us.
Mm-hmm. True enough, and you can see it probably from the red marks on my own Training Peaks calendar that life does indeed get in the way, but at least it allows you to understand. I know that I personally, in my experience with using the software and working with coaches, that one of the things that it helps me do is to be a little bit more realistic about what's coming up on my calendar. So I know that I have a race coming up on March 26th. And I know from the level of training that I'm at right now that I just showed to everybody, that I am probably a 6-hour finish for that race unless I can actually find more time to train. So it actually helps me to calibrate my own expectations so that I won't walk off the course or ride off the course on March 26th in Cannes and say to myself, "Boy, I'm really disappointed with that finish." Instead, I walk or ride off the course, saying, "Gee, that went exactly as I expected." Which is sort of the way that it happened for me in Florida. I knew at GFNY Florida, I knew that my half marathon training was going really well, and that I knew about what my time window could or should be barring me tripping and falling, which is something you always have to watch out with me. But barring that, I knew that I would be able to finish within a certain window, and I was able to do that. So it helps you to set your own expectations, and maybe we can close on that. Which is, we talk so much about goals, and we talk so much about the pressure that athletes put on themselves, but it all boils down to expectations. And so, how does coaching or working with a plan, how have you seen it help people or help yourselves calibrate your expectations about what a good finish is?
I think that people need to be what I'll call realistic in terms of what their expectations are. But one of the things that I think that's important is for people to manage those expectations in a realistic way based on the process that they've just gone through in terms of their training. And so I think that if they have, except for what I call the real racers, but for the rest of a lot of the field who's trying to do maybe their best time or something like that, I think that they have to kind of make the goals in maybe smaller pieces. So what I try and do with, I focus primarily on what I call relatively beginner cyclists and some moderate cyclists. We talk about, you should be in Piermont at this time. You'll probably be in Haverstraw at this time. Based on the training you've done, you can expect to do Bear Mountain in this time. And so I think that that helps them also mentally because it gives them the chance to create small achievements throughout the day. Because most of them aren't going to be able to do 10 GFNYs fully before they get to go ride or race GFNY. But we've been able to, between training indoors and also the group rides that we do on Sundays, they can more or less gauge, kind of what their expectation should be on race day. And then if they stick within some parameters of a plan, then they'll kind of be happy with their end result because chances are they're going to do better than they thought they could. And so it'll be a big achievement for them. I mean, I remember the first time I actually finished a GFNY, it was unbelievable that I crossed the finish line, that there was a finish line there. So I thought that was great. And then the next time, it was a 7-hour finish, so that was even better for me. So I think you have to manage the expectations of the people, but also give them some sort of high hurdles to reach. If you get here by this time, do this. If you get here by that time, do that. And I think that makes them have a great day, no matter what the end number is, right?
Hi, sorry, I'm lagging here. So just following on what Vito's saying there, like for your goals and to take the pressure off. I think also doing in your training, because if you're kind of training in North America and Canada, a lot of us spend a lot of time indoors because it's so cold, so you just can't get outside. And kind of, creating some of that training on the trainer, knowing, like, as you say, Vito, getting to Bear Mountain at this time and then kind of simulating what's that climb going to feel like. So for me, it's knowing the course, knowing what's going to be out there, when to expect it, like hit, I can't remember, it is like the 60K mark, or knowing that when you get to the 100K mark, there's a wall that you have to climb. So I want to practice that in my training. And I think when you can emulate a lot of that in your training through the guidance of having a coach or a good training plan, it's not a surprise when you get to the race. And you feel so much more prepared. You feel so much more confident. And then when you get to that finish line, you're like, yeah, I did it. And I did it a lot faster than I thought I was going to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben.
And my apologies, my browser blinked off there for a second, so I apologize for that. Ben, any parting thoughts?
Yes, in generally, It's important to find the balance as a coach between motivation and, to be honest, to an athlete. Motivation, it's quite easy, but to be honest, it's not always that easy. When he's got injured, when he's got sick, yeah, you got to say, okay, instead of 7 hours, it's going to be 8 hours. But you got to be honest. That's very important as a coach, also.
Right on. And I think that's the key thing. So we put some polls about coaching in there. We would love to know what everybody feels about coaching, about training plans, what may stop you, what the barriers may be from choosing a coach, as well as we've thrown the URL for coaching at gfny.com into the chat window. So if anybody has any questions, these folks would love to help you out. With your coaching questions, with your training plan questions. Again, your best results will probably come from attacking this with a plan. And I just want to thank you guys for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to have you all on again. And Paulina, we'll see more of you in panel 3.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
We'll be
Chris.
back in about 4 minutes. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Vito.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, welcome back. We've got panel 3, which is all about what to expect on race day. I've got just a great group of multi-finishers, podium finishers, ambassadors, just from all over the place. So Paulina, who is with us for the coaching panel, is here. Uh, Talia Sherman is here, who many of you know from seeing her around races from the GFNY Grupo show. Ben Gorodetsky is here. Gary Hand is here, who was on the podium in Florida. So, hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hey.
Hi there.
And if I mispronounced anybody's name, please just feel free to slap me the next time you see me or whatever. What we wanted to talk about today was walking into race day, and we've just posted a poll about what your biggest race day fear might be. I know that I already checked that poll off, which was late to the start line. That's my biggest race day fear. But what are you afraid of? A mechanical problem, not being able to finish? And by the way, if that's what you checked, did you watch the coaching panel? Or forgetting something like your race number or your CO2 cartridges or something like that? So what are your biggest race day fears? Tell us all about that, because this panel is really designed to help you get over all of that. And it'd be so great to hear from these really experienced GFNY racers about what their experiences are and how they are best prepared on race day, not only walking in, but feeling good walking out. So we talk a lot about the race experience, but we would we not all consider a smooth packet pickup and just knowing that you have everything prepared? What has your experience been for all of that? Let's start with you, Ben.
Packet pickup, I like to do that as early as possible. I want to be the first person in line, just so it's quick and easy. And from that point on, I only have to think about the race, and I'm not, showing up last minute to grab my packet.
Right on. Anybody else want to talk about just what your experience has been and just being able to make sure that you get through the stress of making sure that you have everything together for what you need?
I totally agree with Ben. Like, I would like always to pick up my packet like as early as possible. That way you have time to put the number in your jersey, check that the jersey size is okay. Also put the number in the bag and just like leave everything ready so you don't have to worry about it.
Yep. I like to be first as well. But I think the big thing is not forgetting your ID, because I've done that in the past. So showing up with your identification, that's important.
Well, we could put that right up there with late to the start line as a fear, or we can include that in forgetting something. I know that when I've worked the check-in, there have been people that have showed up without any ID, and there's nothing you can do to help them until they have to go all the way back to wherever they're staying to get their ID and deal with that. So, you probably all got pre-race rituals that you go through to make sure that you've done everything possible to make sure that you're ready. So maybe let's just have a whip around with what those rituals are that get you off on the best first pedal stroke or the best first step if you're running.
Okay, I'll start this one then. So I do always like to arrive 1 or 2 days beforehand for New York. And I always have to ride the parkway. Like from the start, you kind of go down that little hill, Chris, and you take the right-hand side, and then you're into the park. I've done it 7 times now, and there's just something knowing what that road is like, how those hills are going to feel. Sometimes I've only been out on the road for 2 weeks, so I just want to get that feeling under my legs. So that would be my one ritual that I have to do.
Hey, you did it with me and 200 of our closest friends this year, I think. Yeah, it was that was the largest group that I've ever taken out on a pre-race shakeout. And it was pretty intense to stop everybody at the bottom of that.
You
hill
did great. I remember that.
Were.
Yeah.
So not only that, but I had to find a translator at the last minute to help me. Anybody else pre-race? Gary, you Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, just listening to some great information there with other panelists. But yeah, following on from Paulina's good point there, part of my ritual is for sure checking out the parkour, the course, like virtually getting an idea, where does it go, but like sort of boots in the ground. I tend to the day before, or certainly 2 days before, trying to arrive there early, and as part of my sort of pre-ride leg loosener, try and check out like the opening 10 miles, because you can look at like a GPS, but until you actually see the course, if there's any gnarly corners, what's the sort of just the general feeling terrain, because obviously it's a mass start, which is amazing and exciting, but having that sort of in your head, knowing you've actually ridden that first sort of 10 miles is great. And then I also try to check out like the last sort of 10 miles as well. So I'm thinking about, perhaps if I'm coming into the finish with a group, where are some good springboards to launch an attack? And even, peeling back a few more layers to that, looking at, the last 1 mile, if I'm, fingers crossed in that lead group, where's the wind coming from? Is there any gnarly corners I have to be at the front going into in that finale? So, and again, you can look at it on a map or even on, Google Images and drop the little dude on and have a look to get a feel. But until you actually ride it, I think it just gives me so much more confidence and just calms my nerves, and I'm just a little bit more relaxed come event day by doing that.
I think the number one fear that we're seeing from the poll with just a few votes in is a mechanical problem, which I would personally say is very much in everybody's control. I mean, if your chain falls off, your chain falls off, you miss a shift on a hill, whatever. That's a small mechanical problem, but a large mechanical problem. Would you guys all say that that's pretty well in your control prior to the race?
Yeah. I mean, I have been in instances where maybe another rider's sort of their front wheels maybe hit your derailleur and something like that. It's out with your control, but yeah, certainly getting your bike looked at in a bike shop prior to the event is doing everything you can to control the controllables. But there's always going to be a curveball perhaps in there.
It's hard if you're traveling with your bike. You have to make sure everything's put together correctly. And a lot of times something could shift in travel. So I think making sure that everything's put together right can definitely most of those issues.
For sure.
That's why I think it's important to come to the race like with enough time ahead. So if something happened, you have time to go to the mechanics or something to fix your bike. I mean, you're traveling, you're having like a race, you have trained, and it's going to be a shame if something happens. So just like make sure to be there with enough time to make sure your bike is okay.
Yeah, and I think you've all, without exception, have traveled pretty extensively to do these races, so you would know. And I myself once showed up in France with a bent disc, so had to go about the task of getting that issue resolved before I could even go out on a group ride. So so definitely keeping your bike tip top. What are your sort of hacks for making sure that you pack everything correctly? I know that we offer a number of tips for packing checklists, and we're going to get into that in panel 4. But the race guide, which I just have to say it, or Lydia will be disappointed that I didn't say it. Always read the race guide. There are a number of tips in the race guide about tires, about chain lube, about seeing a mechanic maybe a couple of weeks before the race. So, how do you guys all manage that with busy schedules and everything else? What are your sort of process for that?
Yeah, I think covering the sort of basics. You spend all year training for like a GFNY event, so the more, I guess you could call, consumable parts of your bike. So things like tires, brake pads, chain, just spending a little bit extra and making sure those are all new and in perfect working order prior to an event would be like my advice there.
I'm going to second that. GFNY tends to always be my first kind of coming out race of each season. So it's always brand new tires for there. Yeah.
Brand,
and I think
brand spanking new, or maybe they got a week or two on them just to make sure.
Nope. Normally I'm at the bike shop and they're brand spanking new. Yeah. And they get to get ridden on the Parker. Yeah. And I think, knowing also your PSI is quite important, because there's some of the terrain and the road and the texture. So I'm learning more and more that a lot of people show up and they're pumping their tires. You all talk about like how much you have your tires pumped up. And some people are I got them at 140, or I just do the number that I see on the sidewall, and I'm thinking, and I've got them at 80. So like really training and trying to figure out, I think that can make a big difference for your race.
Yeah, and even just following on from that, just checking out the weather. So the tire pressure that I would use on a dry day versus a wet day would be slightly different. I'll probably lose a little bit of pressure there on a wet day, and even just a slight shift in regards to front and rear tire pressure as well. You're doing a lot of your steering and braking on that front tire. So even just having that sort of 3-4 psi less in the front than what you would do in the rear. So for example, I would use on a normal dry day, I'm about 92, 95 psi for both tires, and then on a wet day, I would run like 75 on the front and 80 on the rear. I'm like 68 kilos, so just to give it as a rough kind of guide there.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, I wouldn't try anything new on race day.
No.
So if you haven't done it before, don't experiment with your tire pressure or use a tire you've never used before, or anything like that.
With anything, don't try anything new in race day.
Yeah,
no.
Not tire pressure, not your nutrition plan.
I once did new bib shorts on race day, wore them for the first time on race day, and about 80 miles in thought, I don't know how I'm going to finish this day. So
yeah.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, or even Ben, like a brand new pair of white GFNY cycling socks. That would be allowed.
Yeah,
there's not
that would be the extent of it.
Yeah, exactly. There's always something good with morale. If I look down and I've got like nice white new socks, like I would say that's 5 watts right there.
Motivation extra.
Exactly.
One of our Grupo Sportivo members, Mike Benowitz of New City, New York, talked a little bit in the chat about over preparation, and to the point that I know Mike very well, and I know how he prepares. He even talked in this little chat message about scoping out your parking spot. So I mean, there is a little bit of non-cycling, magic to preparation and not being hurried. I mean, talk about that for a second, about the feeling of feeling hurried or pressured or stressed. You're about to stress your body out for somewhere between 4 and 8 hours, depending on who you are and what your capability is. So talk about what you do to make sure that when you get to that start line, you feel the race and only the race. I've stumped the band. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I don't think you can be over prepared. I'll have my gels and my bars in my jersey pocket already the day before. I'll have everything ready to go. Like we said before, you're not going to spend a year or 6 months or whatever it is training and all the time and money and preparation, and then just not figure out where you're going to park or how you're going to get to the race, or making sure all that's just dialed in. And the only thing that you actually have to worry about on the morning of the race is just getting yourself to the start line.
How about nutrition race morning? How do you sort that out? With the understanding that everybody is different.
Yeah.
Race morning.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah,
go for it,
everything's
Jen.
prepared.
Yeah, the night before, like I think the night before you have to be prepared, like the jersey, I put the jersey and I put already feel like the pockets in the jersey. So the next morning I just like zip on the jersey. And also I have prepared what I'm going to have for breakfast, and I calculate the time. If the race is starting at 7, then I know how much in advance should I take my breakfast, my coffee, or whatever I want to and I'm used to. So I'm not in a hurry because I don't know. I like to have my breakfast before the race, and I know it's good for my body, and I'm used to that. So it's key to plan what you're going to eat, not just during the race, but also for breakfast. And also, like super important is not to, like, even if your hotel says like, yeah, we are having breakfast or coffee or whatever in the morning, just to be on the side, have everything like on your side, and if there's breakfast occur, okay, like double points, like you can grab, but have everything with you.
Right. We just added a poll about what your race day breakfast is. And there's always been some debate in the GFNY peloton about whether coffee is appropriate in the morning or not. Coffee, no coffee.
Coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
100%.
No,
I'm a no coffee person.
no
So
coffee for Ben.
I'm the odd man out here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God.
All right. Any other race day thoughts just about not the over preparation? Let's stop calling it that, because it sort of casts a pall over being properly prepared. So anything else about being properly prepared?
I will say, if you're over on the Fort Lee side and you're staying in the host hotels that are down on the highway, there's often a police escort that comes along around 4:30, 5 o'clock. Can't remember exact time. The hotel will tell you. You need to be prepared and to know when to leave. It's really, really dark. And if it's your first time doing the event, you want to be leaving with the escort, because coming out of that little section I got lost the very first time because I missed them, and that wasn't good. And also know that you may have to take the stairs versus an elevator, because they tend to be really busy. So just, you want to kind of sandwich in a little bit of extra time on race morning. That would be my suggestion.
And it's kind of cool to ride behind a police escort.
Oh, yeah.
And we talk about the pro for a day. That's kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, panel 3, what to expect on race day? Any parting shots? Any last minute advice for anybody that's doing this for the first time? You're all such crusty veterans at this point that that I think that everybody that would be listening would be looking to you to find out what you guys do, because you've been there and you've seen it all.
Yeah, I think, the panel earlier, just on coaching in terms of preparation, they raised some amazing good points. So just, bringing that into play is just trying to look at whatever GFNY that you're doing, and try to understand the demands of that event, and then apply that to your preparation, trying to simulate that in your training. So for example, if you're riding GFNY New York, and that Big Bear Mountain is in there, try to find some local climbs that are sort of stimulating that, and then also just think about like the distance as well. So if your goal is the 50, or if it's like to ride almost like 100 miles, then just make sure that you're trying to do that in your preparation.
Excellent point.
Yep, that was good. I would also say that if you haven't done it in training, the magic fairies aren't going to show up on race day. And what I mean with that is, I'll try to go with the front guys and I'll hang on for dear life. And I have walked many a time at the race, and I've learned my lesson now that you can't dish it all out in the first half. You have to save it for the second half. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, you know, like little simple things, we all know the importance of nutrition to see you through the event. But, you know, I've ridden for over 20 years and done a huge amount of racing. And even myself, like I still put on my head unit a little alarm to go off every 20 minutes. It just as a reminder, just to keep that constant nutrition and important carbohydrate going into the body, because you know, when you're on event day, it's amazing and exciting, and there's so many things happen, and before you know it, an hour could go past and you think, goodness me, have I even had any of my feed to keep me going for the next 100 miles? So I use that as a little just reminder helper for me through an event.
All right. Well, you guys have been great. Much appreciated. And I think a couple of you might be sticking around for panel 4. So we're just going to go to a quick break. Please check out the polls. And if you have any questions, just throw them in the chat and we'll do our best to get them answered. Thanks, everybody, for being on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a little bit of a preview for what's coming up next week. We have GFNY Puerto Rico coming back, first time since 2015 on February 5th. So that's pretty exciting. So if you're still into making short-term travel plans, you do not need a passport if you are in the US to travel to Puerto Rico. So please feel free to sign up, get down there. It is not for the squeamish as far as the climbing is concerned. There is a fair bit of climbing. And are either of you attending GFNY Puerto Rico? Talia's going. All right, great. So what are you, just really quickly before we introduce Heather, what are you expecting out of Puerto Rico?
It's going to be amazing, I think. I have in mind, it's just kind of like GFNY Cozumel, because you also have the beach. Even it's not a flat course, as you mentioned, but yeah, the weather is going to be similar, and yeah, I have high expectations of GFNY Puerto Rico, and I bet it's going to be really, really fun to be there.
Will the whole Grupo team be there?
Yes.
Excellent. So that'll be a big race. And Heather, you will not be in Puerto Rico, but what's your next race?
We have the New York City, and then we have Cambridge. So race on my home territory now here in Maryland, coming on October.
All right.
5th. Yes.
Yeah, many of the Virginia, Maryland, Delmarva, DC peeps are very excited about Cambridge. Cambridge will be actually the flattest GFNY ever. Even flatter than Cozumel, even flatter than Sebring. And we have with us also King of the Wind, Hector Vernasco. who how many times have you done Cozumel now? 5, 4,
Four,
5? Yeah,
four
4.
times,
Okay,
yeah.
so I think that
Talia.
qualifies you for a King of the Wind crown. That's
It's,
a
it's
lot
not
of
easy.
trips around the island, man. That's a lot.
It is a lot of trips. But
So
hey, listen,
I'm just
Talia has the most.
I'm so excited to have this group here because these are all veteran travelers, and with so many races going on, we're sort of all over the globe again, right? With Asia, with Europe, with South America, with Central America, with Mexico, with North America. They're now Rockford, Cambridge, Sebring Marathon, and New York City. Of course, there's now 5 races in the U.S. So that's quite a bit that's going on. So maybe we can just go around and each of you can tell me what it is that you look for in each race experience to make you say, yeah, I want to do that one. And Talia, I know that you did Alpes Vaugigny last year, and I think on one of the podcasts, Uli had mentioned that was, he asked what your favorite was so far, and you said that was it. So is that still true given all the racing that you've done?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it just wasn't just a race, it was like the whole camp experience. From like a week before, you have been there 1 week and climbing all these iconic climbs, from, I don't know, like you can still see the names because those are the roads that they use for the Tour de France, and just the views in general are just amazing. Like, I can not even explain you. Like, I'm sure you know because you also have been there. And yeah, I also have like tears in my eyes when I was like in the middle of the road and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm here. And yeah, it's just like 50 kilometers of climbing by yourself, so you have a lot of time to think. And I don't know, it was just an amazing experience. And it's not that the other ones are also amazing, but every race it's different. Like, yeah, you can find different things in every race, you know.
Absolutely. Hector, what do you look for? What is it that pushes your buttons and says that's the one I want to go to next?
Well, number one is experience. At the end of the day, you want to go to places that you have never been before. I think, made Cozumel my second home in regard of the races because, being in New York, obviously doing, where everything originated is part of, being part of, as an ambassador. Cozumel I love just because, the people, being with Sean, the group over there, Talia, and Luis, is Mexico has become, like I said, my second home within GFNY. Um, Obviously, Colombia, always been a challenge. The first time I went, it was experience. Now, last year when I went, it was completely different, when Sean took over, not to say anything about the previous organizers. Thinking of going to Puerto Rico, but unfortunately, that was going to be my challenge this year, but what I want to do is, want to make sure, that I could get a good experience. Second, complete the course, and then be okay. I'm definitely doing that next year. So you always challenge yourself to try to do better every time that you do a race, and especially when there is second, third, fourth time, improve your time. So that's what I look for. But if you talk about favorites, I would definitely go Colombia just because is where I'm from. But I have a challenge now. 2024 will be the year that I will go to Europe and experience what most of the people that have gone there, you, Talia, everybody else who goes over there and tells me, you got to go there. So 24 will be the year that I go to Europe.
Well, hopefully you'll plan ahead and you'll involve me in your planning so that I can be there when you go. Heather, you disappeared on us for a second, but you're back. That's great. So your first race was in New York City, and so sort of a slam dunk 3.5 hour drive up 95 to do this experience, and now you have another slam dunk right in your backyard. what else would kind of force you to kind of expand your horizons and say, yeah, I want to go do that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a wanderlust. So I'm always, wherever I go, my bike goes with me. So I need to do a little bit better planning of pointing and saying, okay, there's a GF race here and I want to go there. Let's bring them together. One race that definitely comes to mind to, Hector's point, I did just spend some time in Colombia, in the coffee region biking about last week for about 8 days. And it definitely makes me interested in doing the race in Bogota. I mean, super challenging having to deal with altitude and the caliber of racers there. I mean, but I do think that would be one to kind of take a look at, connecting the dots and really taking on a nice big challenge and being part of the GF family and taking upon that race under my wings.
Cool. I mean, tying that together with what was said in panel 3 about expectations, would you be willing to, have the experience without the potential of being in that front group? In other words, I go to these races with no expectations that I'll be in the front group. The front group was probably already across the reservoir in Vaugeny by the time I got to the bottom of the hill. So, the money was up the road, as they say, but the experience was still unparalleled in being able to ride that course. So is that something that you look for? Do you look for races that you can be competitive in?
Yeah, I race with all my heart. So regardless of the level and the caliber of, everybody joining, I mean, the one thing I love about GF is that we're all riding with like-minded individuals is what I say, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm always up for the challenge. GF New York was my first sort of road race. I've only been on the bike for about 2 years now. And so, but yeah, and then having the race come to Maryland, I'm a climber. Different race strategy for Cambridge, but I'm all in and embracing and really looking forward to really see. It's going to be a fast one here in Maryland. Yes.
That will be a fast one. So I think probably your strategy has got to be to find a wheel and stick, or find a number of wheels and stick with them. Talia, when you travel, I've always seen you with your bike, right? So just going around this group, I don't think we're going to find any bike renters here. What is it about traveling with your bike? I mean, it's probably hard the first time, but then after that, it just kind of becomes a routine, right?
Yeah, it's just like you get so used to it. And also like your bike, how big the backpack is for your bike. So you kind of adjust everything else around that. Like, okay, I can carry my bag case and then like a big suitcase and then my backpack. But yeah, by now I'm pretty much a pro because I don't know, I can carry one, like my bag in one hand, the suitcase in the other hand, plus my backpack. And then even when people sees me with the big bags and ask me for help, offer help, I'm like, no, I'm totally fine. Like I can totally manage this. Like, yes, I think I became a pro traveling with that bike, but I have to say it's not hard at all. Like people maybe think it's super hard, like traveling with your bag and it's super heavy or something. And as long as you find like a good quality suitcase for your bike, for example, mine is the elite one that you have 4 wheels, so pretty much you have you don't do like any effort, you have to just like carry it. So it's super easy. Like, yeah, as I was telling you, people sometimes think it's super hard, and I really encourage people traveling with the bike if they are afraid, or if they decide to how do you say, to send the bike with the company. That's totally fine, but you have to try it first. Like at this point, traveling without my bike, I feel naked. Like I feel like too light.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to and to practice, right? And to know, like, we're not waiting the last minute before you're traveling. To learn how to do it yourself, to learn how to assemble and disassemble your bike is super important. But to make sure you give yourself enough time before you're traveling and ensuring that, like, because those are some things that could definitely go sideways. And and it's important to make sure you're investing in the right sort of bike box, right? Everybody has a preference to what works. And so it's really kind of doing your homework on that, because that is a make or break, especially if you're trying to prepare for, going into a race day. And things happen, right? I mean, travel is part of travel. And so one thing that I found to be, helpful when you're, packing is, I put an air tag into my bike, right? So as soon as I'm on the plane, or like before I'm boarding the plane, a couple minutes before or 30 minutes before, I'm seeing if that bike is even loaded into the plane. Right. So there's things that you can do, if possible, things that control the controllables. Right. But that, I think, is, one of those things that it can cause a little bit of angst, but you got to just work through it. Sometimes things go sideways. Right.
Wow. You just gave me a tip that I need to start
Yeah,
doing.
that's a good one.
You know what? You just gave me one and I got to put it on because
It's one of the, you see the whole, and it's, as long as there's an iPhone by that air tag, as it travels, exactly where your bike is in that airport or along the way.
definitely, I definitely want to do that.
Yeah,
no,
and I think, go ahead,
just,
please, Hector.
I'm sorry. I think it's practice. My practice makes perfect. Like training. Definitely, the first time will be challenging, but then with time, it will take you. It will become the second, nature. Sorry, and when I travel, I definitely airline that is going to be able to take my bike with me. I will not rent a bike, because the feeding. There's so many things that you gotta make. You gotta make sure that that it's like changing something at the day of the race, like nutrition, doing something that you usually don't do. Definitely, the bike is a part of me, and I will not rent a bike. If my bike doesn't get there, I won't even try to do anything. I'd rather just not race because my bike feeding is for me. Um, Traveling, with it is now it's like I feel naked if I'm somewhere and I don't have my bike with me. Now it's part of me. Even if I go to Colombia for a couple of days, 3 days, everybody tells me, Hector, you're gonna pay $50, $100 more for that. You might even only ride one day. I don't care. My bike is with me. I'm riding. I'm definitely gonna do it. Um, I have gone to Cancun a couple of times, and I had gone to Dominican Republic, and my bike is with me. My wife is like, "Are you sure you're gonna bring it?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." While you're sleeping or you're on the beach, I am riding because I want to be there with my bike. So it's definitely easy. It gets easier, and then the bill will take you 10 minutes. Putting it back into a bike case is gonna take you 5, just because you get so used to doing it that it becomes second nature.
And I think there are some things to assume, which is that you start to learn what are the right tools to pack with you, what are the right things to have in order to do that. And I think that knowing your bike well enough to be able to pack it, break it down, build it up, all of those things put you in a situation where you're putting so many of the variables that can hurt your experience in your own control. So knowing your bike will actually help you to solve probably 70% of the mechanicals that could potentially happen to you within a race. I think some tips and tricks that I start with on some of these things. Hector, you mentioned checking with the airline. Knowing how you're traveling is part of traveling with the bike, understanding what their travel policies are, calling sometimes, getting things in writing, but also as much as you possibly can, based on where the race is, flying as directly as possible always helps to make sure that your luggage gets there, to make sure that your bike gets there, because it's probably less of a chance that your bike will get lost on a direct flight than on a flight where you have to make two or even one connections. So with that in mind, what are some of the tips and tricks, tools that you carry with you? What are some of the things that you do to make that kind of thing better? easier?
I mean, just sorry.
No, I was going to say, I took the time to get up and I just went to what I keep. I don't know if you can see it. This is pretty much my toolbox. And it's funny that you mentioned that because it's so prepared that you know that I have this little bag where I carry pretty much everything. All my tools, everything there, extra tools, CO tools, everything is right here. That this is, I think, after the bike, this is the second thing that I pack, and then I pack uniforms and everything else. Funny thing I'm going to mention is that I did a small trip not too long ago, and I organized everything so well that when I got to the place, I forgot to bring actually my clothes. That's how bad it gets. That you prepare for the bike. That when I looked, it's like, wait a minute, half of my clothes are not here. Just because I was so worried about what I was bringing over there, that I couldn't buy clothes over there. That's how funny, and how natural it becomes. That you pack everything up so well, and then you get to the place and you forget actually the regular clothes that you're gonna wear.
You remembered the important stuff, so you were able to race. So I think that's really what counts.
Yeah.
Any other travel tips? You've been all over the world, Talia. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just same as Hector. Make sure you bring everything you need just in case. Like, of course, to disassemble and put the bike in the suitcase, you need the Allens. Is that called?
Yeah, the Allen or Hex. Yeah.
And also just everything you might need, like extra tubes or whatever, oil or whatever. Just bring everything with you. It's better to have enough and don't use it than need something and don't have it.
Yeah.
Because maybe you will be in the place. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe you will be in a place where you don't have access to a mechanic. So just better be safe.
Yeah, and also, I'm sure everybody on this call too, we travel with our nutrition. So I have, Tupperwares of white powder, they're stuff that I'm usually traveling with. But I always say, travel with all your nutrition. I mean, it's probably most of my weight that I bring on to in my carry-on, but I mean, that's super key. And then I've also learned to bring an extra BOA for your shoes. That's something that could easily potentially go wrong in the morning while you're putting your shoes on. So little things to detail, maybe it's a little over the top, but I think it's always prepare for the worst and expect the best, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you said it before, Heather, control the controllables, right? All of these things are within your control. I actually put that in the GFNY packing checklist that I published right before I went to GFNY Argentina and forgot my bike bottles and had to buy bike bottles in Argentina. So that was fun. Especially the way that all of my teammates made fun of me for not having my bike bottles. So that was the best part. Okay, so we're running up on time. I know the Latin America team has a lot prepared for 2:30 today. Here's a great opinion question. We'll just do a quick hit. Tubes or tubeless for race day? I would say whatever you ride all the time is what you should do. You should know how to change that tire no matter what it is. And I would say tubes all the time. I think tubeless is just a recipe for disaster, but that's just me. Anybody want to enter that debate?
Yeah, I would say what happened to me in Mazatlan, which was crazy. Running tire blew up, and I think it's kilometer 3. I was an hour behind until like somebody actually got me a new tire. And the guy goes like, so you're going back to your hotel? I was like, nah, at least I got to do one lap. And then I started chasing people, started starting out. Finally, 4 hours and 10 minutes it took me to do the 2 laps after an hour stop. So that was an experience. Definitely,
Yeah.
You got to bring everything. I didn't have an extra tire.
Yeah, practice. That was one thing I did before GF New York City because I ride tube. Practice knowing how to change a flat. But I mean, I think it's an interesting question that I'm actually kind of fencing with for my next race is like, do I just go tubeless for the actual race day because it can seal and go? And so I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on that one right now.
I would say, just from what I've seen of people with tubeless, that you might want to get a few flats before you make that decision on race day. So
Fair.
I'm also kind of transitioning to tubeless. I have one and one right now. But for example, either if you use tubeless or tubes, you need to know how to fix. If you have tubeless, for example, Flavio uses tubeless and he loves it. He absolutely loves it. But of course, he has had flat tires in for example, in Cozumel, but he knows how to fix it. So all good. Even whatever you prefer, as long as you know how to fix it and you feel comfortable with it.
well, if anybody ever wants to hear a great story about somebody who thought that they had tubulars once, not tubeless, not tube, but tubulars, if you ever want to hear a great story about somebody who's enough of an idiot to think that he had tubulars, let me know. I'll yeah, Chris Torella says don't go there.
That'll be a good one to
But
hear.
it is a great story, but not for today.
Yep.
Closing thoughts, bucket list. We've got 34 races on the calendar for GFNY for 2023. That's why today is such a nice kickoff, because there's so much to celebrate. Racing is really fully back. Bucket list for this year, if you had one that you could pick and you say, boy, I wish I was going to that one, which one would it be, and what can we do to get you there?
It's hard to pick one. I mean, you can do that.
I know you're probably going to go to 10, so just because, but if you had to pick one that you're not going to, just pick one.
I mean, Asia is in the bucket list, so Kuala Lumpur is going to be really soon in February, so that's a no.
That's cool.
But Krabi is going to be next year. Yeah, I think so.
We can refer to the race calendar and race finder at gfny.com to figure that out. Stand by. But Krabi is coming, so why don't we do a whip around while I find that?
Yeah, I think Portugal is probably on my list of probably really potentially trying to target that one. It seems like it'd be a beautiful country I want to visit, and looks like a beautiful course. So,
okay, not officially scheduled yet, but but I can tell you from having done that course twice, that it's definitely worth getting to. GFNY Krabi is March 10th, 2024.
Yeah.
It's actually been moved because of the public works project there. So but it's great to have that on the bucket list, because March 10th, 2024 is not as far away as you might think. So start planning now. Hector, how about you?
I mentioned any race in Europe. Italy, I definitely was. I remember being booked, ready to fly to Italy on 2020, and then you know what happened. So I was ready for that race, and I definitely want to go. I want to go to that area. So and then France. Anything in France would be. Unfortunately, like I said, 2023 will not be the year for Europe. 24 will be. But if you're thinking about this year, I definitely would like to go to Tunja. But Sean mentioned, it's at the end of the month, and for me and my job is very it's stressing as it is right now. I'm going through some difficult times in my job. That is bad. It's just it's tough with what I do. So anything at the end of the month is like put an X, because no matter what I do in my job, they'll tell me no, you cannot go. So, but I definitely Tunja will be the place that I definitely would like to go this year, but it's not going to happen.
Okay, I'm gonna close out and say Grand Ballon is the one that I'm targeting as my bucket list, because I don't know that I can do 4,000 meters of climbing again the way that I did 2 years ago, but I'm definitely putting it on the list as a target. Let us know in the polls. We'd love to know what you're thinking. I want to thank everybody on all 4 of our panels. I want to thank this panel. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for all your great insights on GFNY. And I wish everybody from everybody at GFNY headquarters, we wish you all the best riding and running. Don't forget, there are running races now as well. So so please have your best year ever riding GFNY or running GFNY, and be safe out there. And thank you very much for joining.
Great. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. Good to see everybody.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Bye.